Sioux City police have arrested a 20-year-old Nebraska man after he allegedly hit and ran a vehicle and was reportedly driving at speeds in excess of 100 miles an hour last night. 20-year-old Lakeavin Smith of Winnebago, Nebraska has been charged with reckless driving, leaving the scene of an accident, OWI, and multiple other charges following that incident last night just before 11 o'clock. According to court documents, a caller reported Smith driving recklessly on Interstate 29 near mile marker 145. Moments later, a second call was made reporting that someone allegedly hit the rear end of a vehicle closer to mile marker 149. He was intercepted on Veterans Bridge, arrested, and taken to the Woodbury County Jail. Now, this does follow another high-speed chase on I-29, this one happening Friday night through several northwest Iowa counties that ended up with that suspect vehicle surrounded. This pursuit involved deputies from Woodbury and Monona counties and Sioux City police, as well as the Iowa State Patrol. That chase ended after authorities used stop sticks to puncture the tires of the car. Right now, we don't know who was driving the car or what started the chase. We'll continue to follow you up on this story online at KTIV.com.